Ready? Greetings, respected viewers. It's George from Ireland. Here I am on the grass market in Edinburgh. Behind me, behold yon castle. That is Edinburgh Castle, which does it give its name to the city? Arguably, because it's just like hill fort if you go back to the ancient Brythonic language. It was recorded there in the 2nd century AD by Ptolemy, the Greek geographer, that there was some sort of settlement up there in that hilly place. And there's archaeological evidence to suggest that in the Iron Age it was inhabited. So it's the iconic site of Edinburgh. Well, this is not the site that people usually look at it from. We're looking at it from the north side. And so it's approachable only from the east because it's on this long since extinct volcano. And 3 sides of it are precipitous, and people can't get up those vertiginous slopes, well, very seldom. So anyway, it was a castle there certainly from the 10th century AD, and that's when the city of Edinburgh was founded. However, it's been through 26 sieges, and much of it has been destroyed by artillery. And there was the long siege in the 16th century when English artillery leveled most of it. So one of the few bits which is almost original is St. Margaret's Chapel, which is a tiny chapel from the 11th century. St. Margaret, who was from the Anglo-Saxon royal family, and she fled here after the Norman conquest. She married Malcolm III, King of Scots. Notice you're supposed to say King of Scots, not King of Scotland. Anyway, they had several children. She died of grief a few days after him. Then her brother-in-law, Donald Bain, became king. Shan't tell you about every monarch and all that. So been through 26 sieges and only taken a few times. Remember the time of Robert the Bruce? So that's the early 14th century. And Edward I, King of England, who also proclaimed himself King of Scots, had the support of some of the nobility and some of the episcopate here in Scotland. Anyway, but Robert the Bruce was fighting against him. He had actually been on Edward I's side for a while. And how was he going to take Edinburgh Castle? Well, he couldn't storm it. You would need siege engines, and those would take a very long time to build and assemble and move. Building up a huge rampart or something, some sort of trebuchet to throw things into the castle. They had years worth of food there, so investing it wasn't going to work. It was going to come and be relieved. However, he had someone in his army who'd lived there as the son of the constable as an adolescent, and he used to climb down to visit friends in the town. In those days, the town would be kind of to the east of it. You can't really see it from this angle. So this man knew a way to climb in and out, and that's how they were able to take it by storm. So anyway, Scotland's main enemy for centuries was England and Wales. Now Ireland, we had the same head of state as England, so some Irish troops were fighting against the Scots here as well. Some Scots supported being politically connected with England. It's not as straightforward as you might assume. Anyway, so just trying to think of other notable incidents in the life of the castle. There was a Jacobite rebellion in 1745, and August 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie, that's Charles Edward Stuart, came here. He was a Jacobite, a descendant of James the 7th, King of Scots, who's also the same man as James II of England. Anyway, so Bonnie Prince Charlie, claiming that his father was the rightful King of Scots and indeed King of England. He took the city of Edinburgh, but he couldn't take the castle. It was held for the Hanoverians, for King George II, as would have been at that time. Also, although he was here for at least 6 weeks, Bonnie Prince Charlie, he couldn't take the castle. You'd need some very heavy siege artillery to try and blast down its ramparts. And so just had to leave this enemy garrison to his rear as he invaded England. So that's that. So it's been a military garrison really since then. It's not been a royal residence for several centuries. The Scots regalia of the monarchs of Scotland are still kept there. Of course, Elizabeth I is descended from the King of Scots, as she is from the King of England. I remember 1603, the King of Scots and the King of England, and indeed the King of Ireland, these titles were all united to the same person. James VI, the King of Scots, became James I of England and indeed James I of Ireland. So he left Scotland, he moved to South Britain, and that was that. Fast forward 104 years, there was the Act of Union. So that's that. So the British royal family occasionally come to stay here in the Edinburgh Castle. They did so a bit more in the 1960s, and Princess Anne once went walkabout incognito when she was a teenager with nobody to accompany her. They were very safe in those days. But there's a street leading from there, from the Edinburgh Castle, right down the hill. It's called the Royal Mile. It's a mile and 1/8 because the mile we go by internationally is the English mile. A Scots mile and an Irish mile are an English mile and 1/8 because we're a hardy lot. We don't get tired as quickly. But at the foot of the hill is Holyrood House. As it should really be Holy Rood, as in it's this meant to be a Christian relic of Jesus, and there's a ancient abbey down there and a royal palace. But so that is the official residence of the royal family in Scotland. It's not Edinburgh Castle, it's Holyrood House, which we can't see from here. So the Royal Mile is an absolutely scintillating street. We'll look at it sometime, and it seems to be that most of Scotland's history has taken place on that one street. Well, that's Edinburgh Castle. It's well worth visiting. It's got displays of medieval armour, swords and all that, and it tells you about the modern British Army. It's got St Margaret's Chapel. There's a gun there, it's an artillery piece which is fired once a day. I think it's 1 o'clock, and tourists like me will duck for cover, but locals will just check their watch. So well worth going around, and it affords you a most magnificent vista over Edinburgh. Anything else to say about that? Yeah, don't try climbing up, it's not that easy. And you could have some loose rocks falling on you. They put some netting to try and stop it occurring, but they can't guarantee it won't happen. Now in August is the Edinburgh Tattoo, which has been going since 1950, as in a display of martial valor. Well, really marching bands, not just the British Army. They've invited armies from various other countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Pakistan has been here, France, Germany, Italy, I can't think. It used to be Russia for the past 5 years. The Russians have not been guests here for reasons you might guess. Anyway, so go and see the Edinburgh Tattoo. The trouble is, when the tattoo's on, I don't believe the castle is open. But the castle, it costs a pretty penny, of the order of £5 and £20. So you can see, if you come forward, you can see on the Esplanade, they put up terraces temporarily for the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, and the flags of various countries participating, like Scotland, Australia, Canada, and so forth, Japan, Malawi, Malta, India. I shan't name them all, and that can seat 8,800 people. There's a show every day, 2 shows on Saturdays. Again, it's rather pricey, at least £60, but that goes on for a couple of hours. You can get a much more expensive package if you want a champagne reception and the best seats. Okay, that's only on in the evening otherwise. That's enough from Edinburgh Castle.